Welcome to the very first episode of Publisher's Verdict, the show where we break down the latest headlines and hot topics shaking up the global film industry. I'm Matt Micucci, and joining me is the Film Verdict's founder and publisher, Eric Mika. Together we'll be giving you an inside take from an outside view on the trends shaping cinema today. In this debut episode, we're diving into a bold and frankly baffling statement from Donald Trump about restricting foreign films in an effort to save Hollywood. Does it hold water? Is it even possible? Stick around as we try to make sense about what it all means and what it could mean for the industry at large. Fire up on Audio Teeny and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Publisher's Verdict. Eric, welcome to today's inaugural episode of Publisher's Verdict.
Thanks, Matt. It is terrific to be here and launching this new podcast series.
Yes, a new podcast series. This is the very first episode of a new recurring series we'll be hosting on the TFV Network. And since it is the first episode of what would be a regular series, can we tell our listeners what Publisher's Verdict is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. I have absolutely no clue what this is about. Listen, I think this is just a great idea that you came up with to have a voice, talk about the film industry, the international film industry, the independents, film festivals, the studios, really a little bit about everything. But quite frankly, I have no clue where, this is going to go after, 3 minutes. So it's up to us, I guess, to make this happen.
Well, it's up to us, and it's also up to whatever is going on in the, in the world of film, the film industry. There's always something happening, and we'll get to the here and now in a moment. But first, Eric, of course, just continuing on an introduction to this series. What's important about it is that you will be bringing your perspective from your experience of years and years in this crazy world of filmmaking and, film publication, film trade publication.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say years, and more years. But yeah, there's been a lot of years that I've been in and around the business. What's really interesting, Matt, is that as a publisher, and I was publisher of The Hollywood Reporter, and uniquely, I was also the head of international for Variety for a number of years. So uniquely really set up both or involved in both publications, the biggest trade magazines in the entertainment industry. But what I find really interesting is the fact that we're living in such a bizarre time in the film industry. There's just change. And that's where I think it's easier to have a podcast and have these conversations and even bring guests on and get their opinions. But it is my opinion. I mean, I want to make it really clear. I mean, the reason I have to be super clear is that the Film Verdict is a platform that is so independent because of the nature of what we do. And it is the value that we have is the integrity of our editors, our film critics that go to film festivals around the world. So, and of course they write their opinions on films. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to have opinions, but really not. I am not a film critic. This is what all of our critics do, and they're just phenomenal. So this is purely Eric Mika, who happens to be the publisher of the Film Verdict, who happens to have about 30, 40 years of experience in the industry. My opinions.
Right. This is going to be less about the artistry of filmmaking and more about, what's happening, whether it's, film market trends or just something that has happened that could shape the future of film production, what have you, That's what kind of we're going to be focusing on.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be afraid to also tackle some interesting questions that deal with creativity in the industry. The problem is, or the interesting thing, these are subjects that we can talk about later on, is money and creativity. Do they work? Do the incentives, governmental incentives, work and produce the best films? Lately, do tariffs, are they going to help anyone? These are kind of the questions I think that we can tackle and we want to tackle. But it always kind of boils back down when you have these conversations is the creativity, the storytelling. of the film industry. What's best for the storyteller and the audience? So I think we'll tackle those sorts of questions as well.
Well, since we are not afraid to pursue topics that may be perceived as, let's say, controversial, well, today's topic, focal topic, let's say, maybe a starting point to further discussions is whatever happened yesterday. Because, yesterday we're recording this on May the 6th, 2025. But yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, President Trump warned about a 100% tariff on non-U.S. films. What is your understanding of that Trump announcement? What does it entail?
My understanding, zero. And I think a lot of the studio executives and associations around the world and filmmakers have the same understanding I have. Zero. It's ridiculous. I mean, what are we doing? A tariff on creativity, a tariff on filmmaking for international businesses, how it can be implemented, what it actually means. It's just pathetically. It's just pathetic. It's not even pathetically. It's just pathetic. I mean, what is the goal and accomplishment? Well, it seems to be to create more jobs, more income in the United States, where film producers can come here and shoot films and make it easier. That seems to be the goal and objective. I'm not clear. I don't think anyone is clear what the goal and objective might be. But it would be helpful, I think, for the Trump administration maybe to sit down and talk to their friends, if they have any left in Europe, and their allies, about what they've done to enhance and create a filmmaking community, not an industry, but a filmmaking community. Not by tariffs, but by incentives, incentivizing filmmakers to come to Europe and shoot their films there through tax reductions and assistance. I mean, this seemingly it has worked really, really well. But the irony of all of this, and there's a lot, there's many, actually, but the irony really is that the entertainment industry is at least it was the largest exporting commodity the United States has. There, whether it is today, but we sell more entertainment products around the world than we do guns, wheat, and butter. It's so easy for other countries to place a massive tariff on U.S. films, being shown in their country, and go the way that China has always been, which is limiting the amount of films that enter their country and really not having a free market. So I think it's the dangerous thing. But, again, I'm going to go back to the original answer, which is nobody has a clue what this means, how it could be implemented, what is the implementation of it. So it's just noise. I think it's more noise, but it certainly gives time now during the Cannes Film Festival or right before the Cannes Film Festival for everyone to have a chat about it like you and I.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, that's no coincidence, that it happens, near enough to the start of the biggest film festival in the world. It almost feels like more of a marketing move than anything that was advised by anyone that has anything to do with film or the film industry at large. But let's try and understand this a little more, because Trump's announcement, the bulk of which went around the news based on, I guess, a social media post, whether that was the original intent or not, that's kind of what I first saw. And it was accompanied by a variation on the MAGA slogan, adapted into "Let's make movies American again." Is there anything about this announcement that can actually be beneficial to Hollywood and the American film industry? Like, can this move actually make movies American again, whatever that means?
No. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to American films. Hollywood films are largest exporting product the United States has. Those films are financed in 100 different ways, hundreds of different ways. And they're not financed 100% by American money. They are financed globally. These are massive undertakings. And so how do you measure, what makes an American film? The concept, it doesn't register in today's world. I mean, I don't think it ever has. But I don't know, what makes a legal American film. Is it the story? Is it the money? Is it the amount, the number of people who actually work on the film? I mean, what's bizarre is this is what countries, underdeveloped film countries, not underdeveloped countries, but underdeveloped film countries who want to expand their productivity of film, this is what they do. We don't need to do that. If we want to increase the amount of film production in the United States to create employment, then there are many, many other ways to do that won't hurt the industry, because this ultimately can rebound significantly and directly hurt the not just the massive U.S. corporate studios, but the independents, the independent filmmakers in the United States, and who are under, and always have been, immense stress and pressure to create their story and to create their film. So again, I think this is potentially a lot of noise. It's something that will be talked about, but there is one maybe positive aspect, and that would be if we begin to look at the administration, I should say, begins to listen and look at the glass half full, which is the incentives to encourage international filmmakers to come to the United States, and for American filmmakers to shoot their films on locations in the United States. The location business is a multi-million-dollar business. Its economic development, its impact is tremendous. Europe has known this. They get it. The United States, those of people in the AFCI, with the locations associations, they get it. The United States in general has just immense geographical images, from New York City to Arizona deserts to, the oceans of California and the Gulf. And so I think, if anything, this could start to open up a conversation about should the federal government, not the states, because the states do a lot. I mean, Governor Newsom has just committed to even do more on the back of this announcement, to encourage filmmakers to shoot their films in California. Governor Newsom just came out with this, and New York City does the same, and so that many of the states actually do it. But on a federal level, can we do more? And the answer is absolutely yes. This would drive international business into the United States. It would encourage people to shoot their films here in the United States from a production point of view. But then again, we have no clue. I'm assuming that is the most logical aspect that the Trump administration is looking at, creating job opportunities in the United States.
Right, because there are so many different steps to filmmaking. It's not just shooting, it's also the pre-production and post-production. The distribution then becomes a really important topic that is probably often taken for granted, but it's definitely one that would have to be part of a discussion when it comes to, the ban that President Trump announced. There's so many different problems. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's probably, if there is a positive, it might encourage the American states to kind of offer more incentives to people, whether it's, American productions or international productions, to actually shoot their films there. And I think everybody would be happy enough with that. But
no, I think so too. I mean, there are so many real issues that the filmmakers in the United States have, that they have to deal with. And of course, the cost of production, like any business, right? Any business. And this is another issue that, we can tackle, but we're going to go on forever on this podcast. But the other question is, if the United States is a capitalist country and believes in a free market, well, there's a big question mark there, right? So a business will look for the best place, to source their product or to shoot their film. If Canada offers, better incentives or deeper incentives than anywhere in the United States, or if Europe does, there's great competition. Italy, actually, as you know, because you and I have been at some seminars together, has done tremendous rebound. They've rebounded really well in getting films to shoot in Italy, whether it's Netflix films or Amazon or U.S. studio films. Italy is reemerging, or has reemerged as a real destination. So I think it's time that the federal government starts to sit down with some of the international friends and learn how they can encourage shooting films in the United States from a federal level.
And since, we should bring it up, I guess maybe part of this is because, let's face it, Trump doesn't really have a lot of friends in Hollywood, and Hollywood community notoriously, liberal, I guess you would say. But I don't know whether that has anything to do with it. Of course, there is another side to this that goes beyond, the money, the business side, and it's the cultural side, and it's scary. It is scary because when you start imposing these bans or, these tariffs on culture, on the arts, you're kind of, you're treading on waters that evoke things and happenings from the past. Historically, though, when we look at what's happening in the film industry today, it's not impossible to see that there is a crisis. AI, for example, a lot of people are worried about AI taking their jobs, including in the film industry. But when we look back at a time when there was a crisis and taking American filmmaking, that was the end of the 60s. Americans and, the entire world, but focusing on America, Americans stopped going to movie theaters and stayed at home watching television, which became cinema's main competition. But that is when a new generation of filmmakers arose and reinvented film conventions, kickstarting a movement known as New Hollywood, or the American New Wave, spearheaded by such directors as Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Dennis Hopper, you name it. And of course, they were inspired by similar film revolutionaries in Europe, Japan, other countries and regions that were kind of rethinking cinema in incredible ways. That's why it seems to me that on a purely artistic ground, Trump's cultural policies can only be detrimental.
No, I agree. Listen, whether it's Trump's policy, quite frankly, in this particular case, I don't think he understands the industry. It's a very complex industry because it deals in creativity and it deals in high finance. It is so complicated in so many different ways. The other issue, and I'm agreeing with you, is on the cultural aspect. It's very sticky. It's very dangerous to begin to muddle government and creativity. And I think that's dangerous. And you said it, but it's also just bad business. You see, the Netflix, for example. And you know what? I want to make sure that this show doesn't go on forever. So maybe next week or the next show, I'd love to talk about the detriments of Netflix.
And streaming platforms, in general.
And streaming platforms, and is it good for the creativity of our international friends and U.S. and U.S. film producers? Because here's one of the issues. U.S. film producers already under so much pressure to create a library of films. In the old days, a producer would own the products that they produced. And today, if they're getting financed by the streamers actually own the products. And one way to get around this, in order for them to maintain and hold on to and build a library of value is that they do international co-productions. And then the international co-producer holds the rights in another company of which the American producer is part of, and boom, they own together the actual product, because the streamers, or certainly Netflix, from my understanding, once they hold on to the rights of the American producers of films, but they don't do that with international films or European films, because it's against the European law for the streamer to hold on to the rights of the film. So there's a lot of things that we can untangle as we move forward, or actually maybe not untangle, maybe tangle it up a bit more and confuse everybody. But so I think at the end of the day, the question, that's why even when we started this, the aspect of creativity is always the underlining factor in filmmaking and in any medium of entertainment. And so when any government begins to muddle into entertainment, whether it's giving grants, loans, whatever it may be, my question back to the producer and the film director is, are you now providing the best quality entertainment and creativity as possible for the audience? And are you genuine to your art? So these are a lot of questions that we have. I think on the next issue, I'm looking at the clock as it's running rapidly past the 10 minutes you and I agreed on. So I don't know, how do you want to wrap this up, Matt?
Well, here's how we can wrap it up. There are so many things that we can discuss. And I mean, you talking about streaming, that's definitely a topic that we need to, kind of talk about. I would also like to maybe discuss further, this American cinema that we talk about, which in my head still remains the most successful and powerful and seen type of cinema if we talk about regional cinemas in the world. But maybe you might have a different opinion as to what makes it so vulnerable at the same time. So that's something else that we could discuss, Eric.
No, absolutely, and absolutely. And I think at least I enjoyed speaking about all this, all of this. And I think everyone should take a deep breath and be true to themselves, be true to their own filmmaking ideals.
As a final question then, Eric, since Cannes is just around the corner, anybody traveling to Cannes, and maybe like now with all of this talk of the Trump tariffs, what would you suggest? How would you suggest they'd interact with this news? And, is this going to impact interactions that will be happening over there in the Marché du Film, of course, the Cannes film market?
Well, listen, the film festival in Cannes also, of course, has the market, as you said, the Marché. And you know what this does? It gives the buyer a great excuse to just hold off, maybe, or to hurry up. In other words, I think it's going to be leverage discussions that allows buyers of products and films to determine a price in the buyer or sell. But at the end of the day, I think it's people will not pay attention to this. There's 1,000 billion ways that over the time where governments have attempted to subdue anything or control the entertainment industry, and it's a difficult thing to do. Regardless, because the individuals in the film business are incredibly creative. They're the creative lawyers, creative accountants, creative writers, creative directors. Trust me, they're going to be creative to figure out ways around any tariff that is put onto international films. I think the last thing we want to do for the film industry, the international global film industry, is to put a tariff on any film being distributed in the United States. If we go down that road, that is a very, very dangerous road for the U.S. studios and independents who are trying to get their films distributed around the world. Because just like what we see in the cars and textiles or anything else, there's going to be reciprocal tariffs, which will then ban or highly make it incredibly difficult for a U.S. film to be shown in France, Germany, or the EC, or other countries, Asia, and even more so in China. So let's hope that certainly that's not the way that they go. And I do believe and I hope that all this talk about tariffs is basically an idea of how do we create more shooting of films in the United States. And I think everyone agrees that more can be done at a federal level to encourage filmmakers to come here. But it's perhaps tariffs is certainly not the best way to do it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, of course, when we talk about reciprocal tariffs, I guess that's going to be much to the benefit of pirating movies, which that's a different problem altogether. But I can see that getting out of hand as well. Absolutely. Well, okay, listen, I think we're running like 25 minutes here, almost 30 minutes of time here. And I'm sure that, we're starting to lose these individuals that who join enthusiastically for a fast, short 10-minute episode. But these are big topics. These are massive topics. And what I'd love to be able to do at some point is get other people on our podcast to share their opinions. Yep. And talk about this as well. So, Matt, I think we can conclude our first episode. All right.
You know what the name of the show is The Publisher's Verdict, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we should come up with a verdict at the end of each show. So the verdict of this show is the Trump administration has no clue about the international or U.S. film industry. That's my verdict. With that, I'm going to bid everyone a great day. Keep the faith and keep making films.
Thank you for joining us, and for more conversations, audio reviews, and audio editorials, follow TFV Network wherever you get your podcasts from, or visit us anytime at filmverdictnetwork.com. Till the next time, from The Film Verdict, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.